This is a photograph on my monitor, and I'm going to point out things to you if you wanted to paint this. There's a difference between painting. Now, photographs, as you know, don't always take what is really there that you would see with your own eyes. So it only takes what it sees, and that's it. Now, one of the things is, with a dark background in a photograph, you're going to get some very sharp edges if you got very bright light coming onto the main subject in your focus area. If you want to get these edges like blurred, you will have to get it into a more shallow depth of field. In other words, a narrow depth of field would be maybe about this wide, you know, in reality. I'll go into that in another tutorial. But here, if you want to paint this, you make your drawing from your picture, and you try to leave out the distortions. Now, we got one tulip here, and this is what the feature was that attracted me, was that one petal of the tulip had almost all yellow and a bit of red on it, and it was the only one in the whole bunch of tulips like that. But I wanted to get a dark background, so what I did was use shadow on the ground in the background. You do see some red reflections, and that's normal. And now, if you start out and you did your drawing exactly the same, or the way you would like it to be, you might find some camera distortions, or what they call lens distortions. But you can get rid of those. For example, this petal here, it's kind of awkward. If it was in, though, like these are here, round, like a tulip, then it would not have shown this petal here. Now, you have some, I'm going to talk here about sharp and soft edges. Here, this looks like it's very sharp edges here because of the dark background. Now, the leaves do fade into the dark shadows, and so forth. You just see a shadow shape of them. There's no highlights on them at all. And those that are in highlights, you see the light. Now, first we'll start with the flower. Okay, we want this to stay in. We definitely have sharp edges here, pardon me, against the red, the bright red. And the sun is coming, as you see, from this direction because of this shadow here. Now, this leaf or petal is sort of turned outward and looking at you. This is the front of the petal that should be inward, really. But it's not. It's out, and you got the sharp edges all along here, and a lot sharper here where it's dark. Where it comes against the background of the red tulip again, you get softer edges, but you still see them. You still see your shadows, how the petal is sort of like bent. And here you get your deeper shadows with your sunlight hitting right on the edge of the petal. And there's something else causing that shadow here. But you still have your sharp edges there. It's sharp there, and it's very sharp along here, but not as sharp as some places. It's and that's normal. Now, these here little white things are not highlights. They are actually little white stuff on the edge of the petal. Now, you have pretty good detail here in your petal here. That's turning its center outward towards you. And this is the heart of the tulip in here, because you see this here petal, and you see it not as sharp against the red. If there's some shadow, like right here, then it sort of fades out. And here it fades out into the dark shadow, and here this is a shadow of this one here. I have something in my throat this morning for some reason. Now, here we have the edge of the tulip fading away, blurring away into the background, the softer background of light. Because there's darkness here is shadow, which is the sun is shining from here. This is a shadow. I don't know where that's coming from. It seems too square to be coming from the turn of the tulip petal away from the sun. So it must be reflecting back a shadow from some of the leaves. Now here the shadow falls off and you get some reflected light from the leaves up in here and in here. And here you get your darker area and so forth. But right along here is a very dark, sharp edge against the darkness, and then it falls away to softer in the dark area against the darkness. Now the shadows edges, some of them are sharp, some of them are very, the edge of the petal here is very, very blurred. It's not sharp, and it's also not sharp here against the red, you see. And here you can hardly see it along up here, this petal here, but as it comes into light, and then where it bends or is, rolled, you get the dark shadows coming in and the bright sunlight highlight on the side. This is highlights here. There's white on here on the petal, but it's showing up because of these are highlights. Now over here you get the further away highlights, and as you see, you can see that some of the petals they're very much more blurred than it is in here. Now, but again, even though it's in the distance and further away, it's still within the proper focus, but you get your sharp edges here against the dark background. Right here is very sharp. Now, this is the stem of that tulip, and you get kind of an iridescent or transparent color with no dark on the body shape, like for example your light and your highlights and your lights and your darker shades or shadows. Here you see the very sharp edges also, and there's very sharp, there it fades away. On this leaf here, the edge fades away up here, but you get a very light edge here. That's what's called reflected light on this leaf. Now here, the leaf is got a white edge here, but you see that pretty nice. It's a grayish color, and then you get your light, and you're fading away as the light drops off from the petal. The petal is sort of round here, and so this is what you get, darker here. And there's some, if you look closely, there's some light in here, reflected light. The same with this leaf here. These are back further in, so they're blurred. And so what you do here is you paint it as if you were looking at it through squinted eyes. You get some highlights here, and gray highlights. It all depends on what you have. And then there's a shadow here on this from the tulip here. Now, you get your details in here pretty nice. As you see, it's the yellow, and then the details are the little red lines. So it's a very challenging subject to paint from a photograph. If you squeeze your eyes, you will see where all the shadows are. Squeeze your eyes closed, like if you were squinting, and you will see where the lines are and so forth, really sharp. Now, this in the photograph is acceptable because we got here very lightly. You can see here the leaf in the background. They're hard to see, but they're there. And that gives it dimensions, and gives it the dimensional look, even though it's just a flat two-dimensional picture So it's back here you get your lines, which gives your movement and action. Your leaf going like this, and the shadow on the leaf, and it connects this connects the flower also. And then here on this big stem of this one, you get the light, highlight, you get the light, the color, and then you get the drop away. And then you come over here and you get a very thin line of light here and some reflected light from the other leaves. So I hope that this is, here you get some light here, but it falls away, and then the line gets blurred, and so you're quite okay. So if you paint this, you have to sort of blur this into the background, make it connect to the background rather than just sticking on to the background like a stamp, you know. You don't want that. You want it to blur in with your background. So what you would do is get some of that background color in there to break that sharp edge and those sharp edges. You have to remember the reflected light too on a real subject, a live subject. It wouldn't show, it should show green, some green. If you were using a live subject, you would see the green reflected even on the red, and so on. So I hope this little tutorial has given you some idea what I mean about photography, a photograph. And it's the same thing for every subject you photograph.